In today's show, Gary Payton makes his debut in a Trailblazers uniform, and the Portland Trailblazers roll over the Pistons, making some history with a pair of 30-point scores. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You're listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts, and also on YouTube. Thanks for making the show your first listen every single day. Free on all platforms, Monday through Friday. Start your weekdays listening to Locked On Blazers. It's your team every day. In today's show, we are going to talk about the Blazers' easy peasy 135-106 blowout win over the Detroit Pistons back at the Moda Center. It was the debut of Gary Payton II in a Trailblazers uniform. We'll break down every single thing we saw from GP2. We'll close the show talking about a little bit of history. The Blazers did something tonight that they had never, ever done in the Damian Lillard era. Historic night at the Moda Center. But let's do what we do here first. Fastest recap in the West. Blazers win this game 135-106, and they were trailing early. They scored 135 points and just 22 in the first quarter. They're down 27-22. Really gross and slow start by both teams in this first quarter, but the Blazers got rolling in the second quarter, took a 61-52 lead into the break behind a 15-0 end to the second quarter. The Blazers built a little bit of a lead, then gave it away, and then they just absolutely turned on the Jets to close the quarter, 15-zip, and did not look back from there. Jerami Grant had 19 in the first half, including 12 in the second quarter on a perfect 4-for-4 shooting. And the Blazers, in the first half, this is absurd, 18 assists on 23 made field goals in the first half. The Blazers often do not get 18 assists in a game. That's maybe not often, is maybe the overstatement, but that's a number that they will very easily not hit on some nights. 18 assists on 23 field goals in the first half. They were making shots. That was the trick to this one. They made a bunch of jumpers, and Jerami Grant, against his former team, made a bunch of jumpers, and they blew the game open in the third quarter. Up 9 at halftime, and then it was over, led by as many as 22 in the third quarter, and took a 102-82 lead into the fourth. And frankly, probably didn't need to bring the starters back, but after Jerami Grant and Damian Lillard came back at about the 8-minute mark and played for 90 seconds, so Jerami Grant could make a couple more tough baskets, hit an and one, flex his shoulders a little bit, and then Chauncey Billups said, okay, for real, you're right. Final 5 minutes, true garbage time. Blazers cruise 135-106. That's your fastest recap in the West. Jerami Grant, against his former team, 36 points on 12 of 17 shooting. He went 5 of 8 from 3 and 7 of 9 from the stripe. 2 rebounds. It's classic scoring Jerami Grant game. 36 points, 2 rebounds, no assists. Dude was there to get buckets and absolutely did. Anfernee Simons, 30 points. He was 11 of 18 from the floor and 4 of 10 from 3. He finished with 5 boards and 3 assists. Damian Lillard, 19 points, 10 assists. He just got him going. He had 6 and 6 in the first half, and then 6 points, 6 assists in the first half, and then it was like, cool, I don't really need to score. Scored a little bit in the third quarter to make sure the game was over. But Jerami Grant had 13 in the third. Anfernee Simons had 14 in the third. Those two finished with 30 piece. A historic night for those two gentlemen, and that was your ball, like. They need to play anymore. They just need to play anymore. Drew Eubanks had 10. Shaedon Sharpe also had 10 off the bench before fouling out in 20 and a half minutes. On the other side, Bojan Bogdanovic finished with 21. Alec Burks added 19 off the bench for the Pistons, who were playing without Cade Cunningham because he's going to miss the whole year, and Cade Cunningham's backup, Killian Hayes, has been pretty good, who's suspended for punching Mo Wagner in the back of the head. This game was the return to the lineup of Keon Johnson and Greg Brown, who ended up playing the garbage time minutes to close out the game, and starting lineup, Yusuf Nurkic, who all returned from a non-COVID illness that kept him out of the last game. They come back. They didn't play in San Francisco against Golden State. They come back in this one, and Nurk was actually ruled out in the second half with an illness, probably because it was a blowout and he didn't feel well, and there's no reason to just overextend him if he's not feeling well. He didn't play very well. He picked up some fouls, was clearly frustrated in the first half, but playing under the weather, you're rolling a team. It doesn't matter. Don't force it. Just go with it. And the Blazers do. But why I've been intentionally bearing the lead here is because I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about it. Gary Payton II makes his Portland Trail Blazers debut, checking in for the first time with 3 minutes and 17 seconds to go in the first quarter. He plays, all told, 13 minutes and 27 seconds to finish with 7 points on 3 of 4 shooting. He added 2 rebounds, 4 assists, a steal, and had a couple turnovers. He was good in the ways you want him to be good. Let's talk about GP. Let's talk about GP a lot. Let's spend the whole second segment dissecting the Gary Payton debut. Sound fun to y'all? Join me in the second segment. Before we do that, I want to tell you that this episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. I use the app, but you can also play it on prizepicks.com or download the app wherever you get mobile applications. Here's how it works. The Prize Picks sets lines, and you pick above or below the lines they set. You pick between 2 and 6 players on each of your entries. You can make them quickly in under 60 seconds. I play the NBA, but you can play all the other sports. NFL while deep into the playoffs. You can play NHL. You can play all the other sports when they're deep into in season. But I play NBA, so you're talking points, rebounds, assists. Prize Pick sets the line. You go over or under that line. It's just you versus projections. You get it right, you win some money. So head on over to prizepicks.com or download the app and use the promo code LOCKEDON when you're making your first deposit to get a 100% match on that deposit. Put in $100. They will match you up to $100. Put in $50, they'll match you $50 when you use that promo code LOCKEDON. So head on over to the Prize Picks or download the app. Don't forget to get your up to $100 match on your first deposit when you use that promo code LOCKEDON. All right. Let's talk Gary Payton. Let's talk about Gary Payton. We've talked about him a lot. It was like, he's going to play? Oh, darn, he's not going to play. This stinks. And then I did a bonus episode last night. Like, he's back. I was excited for this one. This was the long awaited debut by the Blazers' biggest off-season free agent signing. They gave him a bunch of money. 3 years, $26 million, up to, with bonuses up to $28 million. It's a multi-year pack, at least 2 years with a player option for a third year. This is in theory a long-term solution for a versatile, high-level defender that can help the Blazers. This is what they need. A point-of-attack defender that makes things easier. Another guard who can make things easier on their two, let's say, less quality defensive guards. They're bad defenders, and Damian Lillard and Anfernee Simons. It can make it easier on their good defenders like Jerami Grant and Josh Hart. Gary Payton will just sort of ease everything in the food chain if he works out as the level of defender that the Blazers probably believe he can be, and quite frankly, I believe he can be. But he also helps on the offensive end, and I was keyed in on every moment of Gary Payton, and that's why the first time he touched it, he turned the ball over, and I just laughed on my couch. I let out a bit of a chuckle. Second time he touched it, though, he canned a corner three-pointer from the left wing, and I thought that kind of spoke to what we're going to see, hopefully from the best version of Gary Payton moving forward. He's in the game with a bench group, Anfernee Simons, Jerami Grant, Trena Watford, and Shaedon Sharpe. I like this group. He checks in he played from what I call the nines. He checks in after the first 9 minutes of the first half and leaves at the 9-minute mark of the second quarter, and did basically the exact same thing in the second half. Comes in after 9 minutes have passed in the third, leaves after the 9-minute mark of the fourth quarter. It's like kind of the classic NBA small minute role. Like a lot of players who are going to play 12 to 13-ish minutes, they play the nines. It's very, very normal. It's what I anticipated him doing, is exactly what he did. He comes in at the end of the first quarter and plays into the second quarter. That meant, though, that's the sub pattern where he won't play with Damian Lillard. I hope in the future we get to see him play with Damian Lillard. But first time he touches it, turnover. Second time he touches it, he's playing with the bench group. He sets a screen for Anfernee Simons, kind of relocates down the lane as it's not like a true pick and roll, and just flows out to the corner as the play moves. And the ball finds him, feet set, cans a three from the corner, says something to the Pistons bench, who was clearly talking smack. It goes in, his first bucket as a Blazer. Cash. He would miss a layup shortly there later, and then to open the second quarter, a couple nice dimes to get going. Chauncey Billups quarter plays when you have the ball to begin a quarter are after timeout plays because you can draw them up in the huddle. Chauncey Billups drew up a nifty one to begin the second quarter. He had Shaedon Sharpe bring the ball up the court. Sharpe hits Payton with Anfernee Simons kicked way out, like above the hash mark on the opposite side. That means the defense is out there paying attention to Ant because, they're going to run a high pick and roll. They're going to get him going. He's really good. The paint is wide open because Jusuf Nurkic is also pulled up like he's going to set a screen for either the ball and Gary Payton or a back screen. He sets a kind of just a back screen, just a rub, just not even a full contact, just barely brushes him on the screen, on a back screen. And Gary Payton gets the ball from Shaedon Sharpe. Shaedon Sharpe full head of steam because he dribbled up the whole court, gets a lob dunk, well-placed, easy dunk, nice play. And you get to see Gary Payton's passing chops. Next possession, he found Anfernee Simons inside for a cutting layup. He could pass a little bit. I think actually Gary Payton's passing skills probably surpassed what I thought he could, what I thought he would have. Then when he checks out of the game at about the 8:53 mark, just after the 9-minute mark in the second quarter, he immediately goes and rides the bike because he has not played basketball in a long time and he's got to keep his body warm. Getting your wind, it's just hard to simulate. It's just hard to simulate the cardiovascular challenge of playing basketball. So I think GP might play a similar minutes load for a couple more games as you ramp him up, and then hopefully he can get from 13 to 18, 19. I think he tops out in that 22, 24 range for the Blazers, but he's going to be helpful. And if the first shift where the Blazers were outscored by 4 in his 6 minutes and 24 seconds, he was fine, but they didn't set the world on fire. When Payton checked out, Blazers kind of still didn't take control, and then they took control at the very end of the half. But he came back in that third quarter and basically the same sub pattern, except no Nurk because he was ruled out at that point with illness. You saw the Payton that he could be. Actually, early on, they ran a play for him where he was a lob option. Ant didn't throw it. Then the next time down the floor, I thought Payton cut to the rim and was wide open. Every time he just didn't see him. Part of Ant's game he absolutely needs to improve on. But Payton he reads space really well, and on that cut wide open early in the third quarter. But the moments when you start to see GP be special, just kind of, it is mundane moments. Pistons out of a dead ball, they're inbounding the ball from the side, and Gary Payton decides to pressure Corey Joseph in the backcourt. Pistons veteran backup point guard is going to pressure him in the backcourt. So he's checking him 4 or 5 steps behind the foul line or behind the half court line. As he comes forward into the half court, Corey Joseph needs a high screen. So Isaiah Stewart comes up and sets a high screen. This is out by the 3-point line because pressure defense has made them extend the play a little bit. Payton gets clipped a little bit by the screen, but knows exactly what's going to happen. As he's starting to recover to Corey Joseph throws it back to Isaiah Stewart, and Gary Payton says, I know where that ball's going, dives in, gets a steal, lands on his stomach, and throws an absurd hit-ahead pass. Just an absolutely absurd from his stomach, grabs it on, dives on the ball, dives on the floor to get the ball that he's knocked away, and then throws it from his tummy ahead to Shaedon Sharpe for a bucket. Just great anticipation. The pressure defense that started and caused that miscommunication, caused the turnover, and then just a great heads-up pass. Again, his passing really, really stood out to me. He had a push ahead where there was a rebound also in the third quarter. He grabs a rebound. He just dribbles into the front court because he can handle a little bit. Another player who can handle a little bit for the Blazers is really valuable, and you see it right away. He dribbles in and when you typically in NBA teams, when you're in sort of secondary break, you dribble wide to spread guys out, and you flatten out. You dribble towards the baseline because then your teammates that are coming down the court, they are farther away and harder to help from. He dribbles, starts to flatten out towards the baseline, comes and runs a dribble handoff, and Anfernee Simons steps into an easy 3. This is not a particularly high-level basketball play, but the Blazers having another dude who can grab a rebound, dribble across half court, and competently get their really good scores, easier shots, or at least semi-transition opportunities, real value. I don't mean to paint that particular play against this particular team as this life-changing thing, but it stood out to me as hey, that's useful. And that's all you're looking for. More ways you can help. Absolutely can help. To start the fourth quarter, guarding Corey Joseph in the backcourt, pressuring him, we're going to play full court defense because that's the kind of guy he is. And the Pistons miscommunicate and throw the inbounds pass directly to Gary Payton, and he dunks it in cleanly. Corey Joseph goes one way, the ball goes the other way, right to Gary Payton. He dunks, and he almost like apologetically dunks. He's like, y'all screwed up. Sorry about that. Gives him the ball back. He had another bucket I thought that I really liked. More screening stuff. He sets a screen for Anfernee Simons, slips into the paint. Simons hits him, and he kind of spins, takes a little bit of contact, and hits a little floater push shot in the paint. Nice move. I think Payton as a screener and passer and decision maker as a screener and passer is going to be more valuable. And the passing, I knew that he was a good decision maker. Like, he's a great screener on the Warriors. He set a ton of screens and rolled to the rim and was a really good finisher around the rim and a really good screener. And he would make decisions out of double teams from Steph Curry. Saw him do it a bunch. He's good at it. But I probably just like in my brain have underestimated his passing ability. He's a better passer than I gave him credit for. He had 2 passes in the fourth quarter that were just really nice reads. One, sets a screen, rolls into space, and fires the ball into the corner to off the dribble to Shaedon Sharpe, who's just not ready to catch it and shoot it. If Shaedon Sharpe's ready, that's a wide open 3. He's not ready. He ends up taking 4 dribbles and a really hard mid-range pull-up. Stay ready, Shaedon Sharpe. Stay ready. And then the next one, they were double teaming Ant just because has 30 points. They were double teaming Anfernee Simons like above the 3-point line. Payton just cuts into space and makes a pass off the dribble with his left hand to the opposite corner to Drew Eubanks standing in the corner. I don't really want Drew Eubanks to shoot it, but just that functional pass off the dribble, live dribble, one-handed on target to the corner from the foul line. That is a nice pass. That is a valuable pass. If it's someone else standing there, if it's a different lineup, like if it's not Eubanks space to the corner, that's a really good look at a 3. GP can absolutely help. He was +3 in 7 minutes in the third quarter, or in the third and fourth quarter, the 9 stretch he played in the third and fourth. Like his second half stint, he was good, and I think you saw why he was good. Defense, playmaking, a little bit of shot making in the mid-range stuff. He was good. The Pistons are bad. This is a bad basketball team playing shorthanded, missing they've been missing Cade Cunningham for a long time. I don't think when teams have long-term injuries, it's like missing Cade Cunningham. They've missed Cade Cunningham for a while. They're going to miss him for many more months. But missing their primary dude who's been playing point guard and Killian Hayes, a bad team missing parts for sure. Not maybe not the best measure of like Gary Payton takes on the world, but you saw it. A standstill 3, the screening, the defensive hustle, the defensive energy, the guarding Alec Burks when the Pistons brought him back, and he's their primary option even when they're fully healthy as a second half scorer. Like, that's GP. Go guard the best scorer on the other team. That all of that stuff is going to help. Didn't really see him play. He briefly played with Jerami Grant. He played a bunch of minutes with Anfernee Simons, and I think he'll help Ant a bunch because Ant just needs another dude who can dribble and make decisions with that group that isn't Jerami Grant to extend, to overextend their starters. You just need more bench guys who can play to avoid overextending the starters, I should say. He's going to help Ant. I want to see him eventually play with Dame because I think as a screener for Dame, he can really help. I want to see him play like with the starters, sub him in for Josh Hart or sub him in for Anfernee Simons and play GP and Josh Hart and Jerami Grant together. I would love to see it. It would be, I'm super intrigued to see what that looks like. But I think the early returns on what Payton did, 7 points in 13 and a half minutes, I'll give him 2 thumbs. I thought he looked good, and I think he can help, and I think it's obvious in the ways he can help going forward. And the Blazers head out on a road trip. Minnesota, which, see him guard Anthony Edwards a little bit. The Pacers, who I kind of said the Pacers weren't good on a podcast last week, and they've since ripped off, I think, 3 straight wins, including win over the weekend over the Clippers. They proved me wrong. Tyrese Halliburton balling, Aaron Nesmith balling. Have Gary Payton go guard Tyrese Halliburton. Have him try to check Buddy Hield. Have him try to check, Nesmith if he gets rolling because for some reason Aaron Nesmith is really good now. Good tests coming up ahead. I think that'll be super intriguing for more of Gary Payton against higher quality competition as they go forward, and just as he's able to play more, see him in different combinations. That isn't just him and the bench in a blowout against a bad team on the back half of a West Coast road trip. GP was good. Tonight was historic. Historic night, brought to you by Jerami Grant and Anfernee Simons. Let's talk about what that history was. Something that has never, ever, ever happened in the Damian Lillard era. That's what we'll do to close the show. Join me and find out about history in the third segment. But first, I want to tell you that this episode is brought to you by BetOnline. It's the fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your sports action. Whatever that sports action is, you're going to find it on BetOnline. You can bet on NBA futures. You can bet live. You can bet on games, outcomes of games. You can bet on player props, whatever it is. Don't have to just bet on the NBA. You can bet on the NHL. You can bet on MLB futures coming up here. You can bet on tennis and golf and combat sports. Whatever it is, you're going to find it. Plus, news, analysis, even podcasts to help you become a smarter, more informed, better. So why wait? Go take advantage today. That's BetOnline, where the game starts. Still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond, and you are still listening to Locked On Blazers. A historic night at the Moda Center. Historic night. Jerami Grant had 36 points in 27 minutes, 28 minutes, 27:54. Anfernee Simons finished with 30 in 33 minutes. For the first time in the Damian Lillard era, in a game in which he participated, 2 of his teammates scored 30 points. It's never happened before since Damian Lillard was drafted. Scoring has changed a lot in the NBA over the 10 years that Damian Lillard's been around. Teams didn't score like this 5 years ago. They didn't score like this 3 years ago. Offense has just taken off over the last 3 seasons. Really, like post 2015, the interest in shooting 3-pointers across the league has really taken off. So there's just been more points to be had because teams are chucking up 43s a night. It is not a perfect comparison to say like, well, they didn't do this in 2014. But they didn't do this in 2014. Dame has never played with a duo that can score like Anfernee Simons and Jerami Grant. He's never had two teammates of this quality in terms of just offensive firepower. LaMarcus Aldridge's pretty freaking good. CJ McCollum pretty freaking good. Norman Powell, heck of a microwave scorer. He's played with some dudes who can definitely get buckets. But not like this, and not with the consistency, and not with the go-to ability to score. One of the things I liked about this game is like Chauncey Billups brought Blazers up 20, but like Billups doesn't want to lose. So he's like, okay, Dame, JG, Jerami Grant, like go out there and give me 2 good minutes of like putting this game away, real deal, like, and then I'll go to the bench. So they do. They bring back Jerami Grant. They bring back Damian Lillard. Dame hits a 3 like right away as he checks back in the fourth quarter. It's like, okay, call them off, dog. Like they're good. It's over. But they run right wing post ups for Jerami Grant so he can go to work. It's the same little action. They ran it as Dame as the entry pass thrower and Anfernee Simons as the entry pass thrower. Jerami Grant sets a pin down screen for a guy to come up. They set an exit screen coming out of that to so there's dummy action. So you have to follow the shooter in the first case and the second time. Dame, you have to pay attention to the off ball action, but it's just a clear out. It's just a post clear out for Jerami Grant. They throw it into the post and say, you can't guard him. I'm not Hami Diallo. You can't guard him. Whoever it might be, you can't guard him. Sadiq Bey, you can't guard him. Jerami Grant scores on both occasions. It's just like, I post ISO for a dude on Damian Lillard's team. Haven't had that since LaMarcus Aldridge was around. And you could throw it into Nurk, etc. like that, but it's not this. He doesn't have the shooting range. He doesn't have the variety, the face-up game, and all of those things. They have not had someone as prolific as Jerami Grant. And I recognize that Jerami Grant, as an ISO scorer, his numbers, points per possession, are pretty bad. So I'm not saying like, I get it. Like I'm a dork. Like I've seen the numbers, but boy, can he shoot it. And as a spot up shooter, he's been really, really good. He's having the most efficient season of his career because he's shooting 44% from 3 on volume, and he hits 5 more threes tonight. Like he's just really good. And Anfernee Simons, every time he's getting a lot of criticism from the fan base recently, or a certain sector of the fan base, because of what he can't do. Sure. It's a classic way to talk about basketball players. You know what he can do? He can get a freaking bucket. The dude can score in a lot of ways, and he is a really good shooter off the bounce. Like he is a really good shooter off the bounce. He's a much better even than shooting off the bounce, a catch and shoot shooter. He's just a very special offensive player. He scores 30 on 11 of 18. Jerami Grant scores 36 on 12 of 17. That's 23 of 35 points. Bonkers night. A bonkers night for the two of them. Never happened in the Damian Lillard era that two of his teammates in a game he participated in scored 30. It speaks to what this team can be. It's the Pistons. So we're not going to go too far here. But there is a level that the Blazers can get to, and we need to see them get to it against really good teams. Like I remember what happened Friday against Golden State when they didn't have a full complement of folks, but I was there when the offense totally melted down and devolved in the final 5 minutes. I wasn't there. I was here. But like I watched it. We need to see them do this against good teams before I truly sound the trumpet, right? Like it'll be here. I promise. I played trombone in middle school if you really want to know. But so I'll play the trombone. But this team has potential. Jerami Grant can really score when he gets going, and he can get hot in a hurry. So can Anfernee Simons. And to be able to roll over a team when Dame doesn't have a monster night speaks well for what they might be able to be in the future. And more Gary Payton means less defensive ask for Jerami Grant, which means less exhausted final 5 minutes against the Golden State Warriors because you have more productive, useful parts off the bench. They got to get fully healthy. They need Nazir Little back. They're going to need Justice Winslow back because those guys provide the sort of funky wing length that the idea of this roster was built on. But tonight, against a team that wasn't very good, they took care of business. They got right against a bad team. That is all you ask. They've got some easier ones after a relatively difficult road trip. It's not going to be super duper easy, Minnesota and Indiana and Orlando, but like winnable games when they get back, after they get back from that, one road game for the rest of the month and 4 road games before the All-Star break. It's about to get a lot easier. It's about to get a lot easier in terms of just home heavy schedule. It's coming. And if the parts work like they did tonight, there's reason to believe that they could really get humming. My belief, and I maintain this and I'll close on this, the Blazers' path to being very good, and by very good I mean like 5th in the West. I feel like their ceiling is somewhere right in there. 4 or 5 in the West is like their reasonable ceiling. Their path to being that. So a team that comfortably, as the West is really crowded, but a team that comfortably misses the play-in tournament, is being a top 5 offense and the 21st defense in the league, like not a awful defense. This was a night that shows you, oh yeah, when they get rolling, they're really special, and you get GP back, and you're like, yeah, they could be a little better on defense, a little better on defense, a little better on offense. That's their path. Historic nights points to the potential that this team has. Come back for that. You are listening to Tuesday, January 3rd show. Come back for Wednesday's show. We'll keep it rolling 5 days a week, wherever you get podcasts, also on YouTube. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.